Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to speak, Embarked and Anna. I just want to, at any time you're welcome to ask questions, as long as it's fruit export related, not necessarily sustainability. But I just want to set the record straight to make sure everybody's expectation is right. Except for weddings, where there's normally alcohol involved, or birthday parties, or maybe one or two boereverenigings. This will be my first public speaking event. So in the academic world, Johan Maton referred to the three world frames of world one would be your everyday real life, world two would be a scientific knowledge and discipline, and world three would be a meta-science and philosophies of science. To be clear, my presentation will be a world one speech. I'm not a specialist on the topic I have to speak about, but I believe I can give you a good insight into the everyday farmer exporter perspective of how we look at environmental sustainability and what we believe are customer preferences in this regard. If I'm not 100% factually correct, please forgive me, but can I ask you, please don't spoil a nice story with facts. So, as per my biography, and I grew up in the Langkloof, and I've been in the fruit industry since my childhood. I was fortunate to grow up in a beautiful area in the Langkloof. The farm was even called Appledale, and I think that was a privilege. There in the beautiful Langkloof, I had my first lesson about sustainability. It was a rather painful event, and I'll explain. Unlike living in a town or a city in those days, it was easy as a child to entertain yourself on the farm. I mean, fishing, bass in the dams, shooting pellet gun on the farm. It was really a nice lifestyle. One day I had some friends over, and we decided to play apple stick. Now, apple stick is a little bit like clay stick. In Afrikaans, it's called clay lat. I've heard yesterday there's a lot of Afrikaans people, so I'm sure some people would know what it is. Now, normally how it works is you divide in teams. You find yourself a nice flexible stick, and then you go in the orchard and you find a golf ball size apple. You would put the golf ball size apple on the end of this flexible stick, and once the guns are loaded, then you're ready for action to play. So being hit by a golf ball size apple, flying at the speed of a real golf ball, will not kill you, but I can guarantee you it will be very painful, and it will cause a nice sensitive bruise. Unfortunately, the accuracy of this apple stick game is not that great, and the collateral damage that it leaves to other fruit hanging on the trees could be significant. So after an afternoon of playing, my belated old man walked on us, and he found us there in the orchard. He was not so much worried about our health or the harm that these apples could cause us, but he was a true warrior against fruit waste and fruit waste. And he certainly didn't appreciate the mess that we made in the orchard. There in the summer of, I think it was 1985, with beautiful surroundings, I got actually my first lesson in sustainability and food waste with the very same stick that we used as a weapon earlier that day. At the time, I didn't realize the significance of this lesson, because in the 80s, there was no word of English spoken in the Langkloof, and I certainly would have never heard the word sustainability. But the message was clear: moenie vrugte mors nie, or don't waste food or fruit. And that was, I think, my first lesson in food waste, and not to waste fruit. I was unfortunately a slow learner, and along my road in life, I always had to end up learning the hard way. At boarding school in Oakdale on weekends, we used to play tree riding. It's a Not going to go into the details, but it's not very environmental friendly. At university, we sometimes did some rabbit hunting. That's more like tree diving. There behind the old Doc Craven Stadium, you pick a nice tree, and that was normally after being out in town at night, and it normally ended up in somebody with a dislocated shoulder. So, yesterday Doc Botha spoke about his favorite word, and he was very passionate about the word privatization. So I've got 3 words that I'm passionate about, and I think I've already said it in the intro, but one is passion, to have a passion for what you do, because without that, you're probably not going to enjoy what you're doing, and you're probably not going to have a full life. The second word is transparency. I absolutely believe in a transparent way of working. And then the last word is sustainability. If you put those things together, you normally end up, maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, with the equation of profitability as well. The older I got, the more significant the word sustainability became. There's so many meanings for this word, and but in the hands of the evil or the opportunistic, it could also be used for wrong reasons. I've seen a WhatsApp earlier this year where a professor at the Stellenbosch University, the study was done in Afrikaans, but where he studied the use of the F word. It's an incredible, versatile word, the F word. It can be used in so many ways, in so many places, in sentences, and it could mean so many different things. For example, effing good, express a feeling of excellence and in a positive way. Effed up is totally the opposite, and it expresses a negative feeling in somebody or something. There was a long list of things, but the point I want to make is the word sustainability, sustainable, one have to use it very carefully and in the right context, because it's like that word, it could easily be used for the wrong reasons and in the wrong context as well. I get worked up very quickly when shipping lines, supermarkets, service providers start talking about sustainability when they actually should use the word profitability in their sentence. There's a common joke in the fruit business. Do you know what's the difference between a terrorist and a supermarket? I'll repeat that. What's the difference between a terrorist and a supermarket? The answer is, with a terrorist, at least you can negotiate. In 2020, I think everybody's world changed. Not for the good or for the bad, but it was definitely with COVID it changed. And further to what Doc Botha said yesterday, the trade between the East and the West increased to levels that we've never seen before. Shipping lines actually decommissioned containers that's supposed to be used for fruit and food export, and they took the cooling system off and they actually started using it for shipping dry cargo. We've seen container shipping costs spike to the highest level ever. A container from Shanghai, China, for example, to London Gateway went up from $2,000 to the same instance, $20,000, 10 times more. I think I'm supposed to press this button. Let me see. Yes. Where are we now? Significance of sustainability. Okay. So, for us in the South African fruit export, our cost for shipping actually doubled over a 2-year period. Doesn't sound significant, but believe me, that can wipe out any profitability of what we're doing. Due to forces of supply and demand, I can understand that the cost has gone up, but then one in the shipping line should also think of the word sustainability. Not for them, but for us as an exporter and a grower, and for the customer on the other side. Now that the shipping hype is over and things are returning to what we would perceive as normal, the shipping lines are very quickly sitting with us and say, but what about sustainability when the prices come down? In another example, for example, is German and Austrian supermarkets, especially want very little or no residues on their product. We supply that we supply from South Africa or from other destinations. On the other hand, they don't want class 2 fruit, they don't want waste. Okay, nobody wants waste. But for our growers, it remains a constant challenge to manage the pest and the disease with limited chemicals that we can use both pre and post harvest, and still complying with these very stringent requirements. One last thing about sustainability, because I'm not supposed to talk about that. When thinking about sustainability, very important is to realize the balance between sustainability and profitability. At school we had a subject called wool grading, and they got an outside teacher in to teach us, an old chap, and always in standard 6, as it was called those days, the very first question this old chap asked us in the class, he said, "Om wat draai die aarde?" Now, if I translate that to English, what does the earth turn around? You can imagine standard 6, all the guesses we gave, maybe that time goals or whatever, but the answer is the aarde draai om geld. The earth turn around money. And it's maybe not the right thing to say, but that is the reality, and that is what the earth is about. So sustainability is one of my favorite words with immense significance, but unfortunately, it has to stand responsible to profitability too. Ideally, your business needs to be profitable in a sustainable way. If I get more specific of the meaning sustainability, I've asked my management team if they could help me a little bit with this presentation. Our financial manager, Alicia, is a very clever girl, MBA, and she's part of a research team that in a spare time, they do research on plastic waste in our oceans. Maybe at this point, a good business advice or business tip is if you're a manager of a business, it's a very good idea and it's very sustainable to surround yourself with people people cleverer than yourself. It's always good. You need to have a few MBAs and people like that in your business. Make sure they're always more clever than you. Don't take the same advice for your marriage. It doesn't work out the same way. Alicia gave me the following definition of sustainability, which I think is a very accurate and very understanding definition. And that's on the board there. Meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In Afrikaans, I think we would say, dink aan môre ook, because that's what it comes down. Don't think only about today. If we move off a little bit from sustainability and we look at the topic that I'm supposed to speak about, is environmental sustainable customer preferences. I think there's sort of 4 main focus points that we're generally looking in the fruit export business: carbon footprint, water sustainability, food waste, and actual fruit waste and packaging waste, and ethical sustainability. Carbon footprint, I think you can have a separate conference because it's a very, very, very wide and big subject. Water sustainability might not be for everybody here today so important, but if you live in the Eastern Cape and you have a 7-year drought in Potensie, then you'll see in a minute that's top of our list when it comes to sustainability. And then I will focus a lot in the highlighted or bolted is the food waste and packaging. Ethical sustainability we will also. So as an introduction, I will focus on the packaging, but as an introduction, that's, for example, grown for use, a sustainability overview. And like I said, water management top of the list. That's been sustainable by using boreholes, using different kinds of irrigation, drip irrigation rather than sprinkler. It's a very important subject for us in the Eastern Cape. Energy management, I think that's for everybody in the room important given the situation that we are in. I said to the guys last night there, I spoke with people working for Astra, and I said, a normal pack house costs 500,000 rand a month more for diesel for running a generator because of load shedding. And that's not 500,000 rand that you get from anywhere. That's extra cost. Community initiatives, we'll speak about a bit in a minute. Grower accreditation, I think that's standard, and every year the list gets longer. And then ethical and social presentation is also included. That's just an example. One of our farms, Sonop Farms, they've got a solar system, and they're planning to put the lithium batteries in and actually eventually go off the system. They're not the only. I think we've got 3 farms that's got solar systems. Now, this slide popped in here at the wrong place, but I like it because it's very colorful. But those are general sustainable development goals. There's certain of those that we as a grower exporter can't do anything, but there is certainly a few, like I'll go to the next slide. Those are included in our goals regarding sustainability and ethical management. I think if I go back to this slide where we are now, Grown for You those are just examples. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I like the top one. It's Nali Bali is a reading program that we as a company invested in because it's so important for people to get to learn at a young age, and then they can enrich themselves once they can read. There's transport. I think the one thing that we've neglected up to now is the NGO program of food waste. There's a company that specializes, and they literally come and collect your class 3. They come and collect your fruit that you don't export, and they distribute it in the whole country at no extra cost to you. One of our biggest shareholders is Abata. I think they're the biggest seedless watermelon growers in the country. And I've already been preparing for this speech. I spoke to him and I said, would you be interested? And he said, yes, why not? So there's very many social things that you can do. I think that the fact is, if you look at sustainability, you cannot separate. You have to include your ethical responsibility. Investing in the future of the lives of our farm workers, and especially their children, will bring some sustainability to their minds, maybe in a much less painful way that I had to learn from my father. Let me see what's the next slide. That's the economic importance of citrus in South Africa. So citrus is the biggest fruit export category. It accounts for 32% of total fruit production in South Africa. The main export fruit accounting for 45% of the total fruit export earnings. That's statistics, but I can tell you last year was not a great year, and the earnings was probably a lot less as a percentage. Maybe this year it's actually more than 45 because we're having a much better year for various reasons. And then that's just a general breakdown of fruit export around the world. You can see Netherlands is leading the way there, but it's a transit hub for many places in Europe. Okay, I think if we move on a little bit away from sustainability and we look at this packaging and in the supply chain, but before I do that, even a sustainable mindset make a huge difference. Something small, like in our company, we have the sustainable mindset of optimizing the bin. Fruit is normally picked citrus fruit is picked in a plastic bin, and growers will harvest from small to large, different grades, everything going to the same bin, and then it gets transported to a pack house where it gets packed. Up to that point, the cost is incurred for setting the crop, for maintaining the crop, and harvesting the crop. It's done, the cost is done. Our company mindset is to optimize as much as possible of the fruit in that bin and to actually sell it and get money for it, as long as it makes financial sense. Obviously, if you export something and you can't even cover your carton cost, which is the additional cost, then it would not make sense and it would not be sustainable. If we move on to supply chain packaging, we I would like to talk about bulk packaging and final packaging, but obviously the clever people has divided it in a more separate primary items, secondary items, tertiary items, and other. I think the biggest difference is primary items is where the product is actually in contact with the packaging that the consumer will put in its mouth, while secondary items like an orange is going to be peeled. You're not going to put the peel in your mouth, so there's the difference. In the citrus, we mostly focus on secondary items. This would be typically corrugated cardboard cartons, bulk lugs, like you can see on the picture, and big bulk bins. We generally sell to two types of customers. Customers with retail programs or customers that sell on the wholesale market. In some countries, they call it wet markets. The split between these two types of customers will vary from country to country. A country like UK, which is very advanced, USA, Canada, is driven by probably 90% plus retail sales, while a country like China is probably 90% driven by wholesale. It could be true that some of the fruit that's sold in China on the wholesale will end up in a retail, but that channel is longer, it's less formal, and it's more complex to control. Despite all the faults of the supermarkets, the retailers, they are more ethical, responsible, and do understand their responsibility towards water and waste, and being more sustainable. And in general, they are very keen to find solutions that are more sustainable. I can't say that for wholesale markets. When we look at supermarkets and what they ask from us and what they expect from us and what they expect from themselves, they mostly focus on 4 points. I think in Paula's slide, she had it yesterday as well, they talk about the 4 R's. Now that's got unfortunately nothing to do with the R&R from Mozambique, which some of you might know. These are serious R's, not rum and raspberry drinks. The first R would be to remove unnecessary plastic packaging and hard recycled materials. If you can't remove it, then where you can to reduce the packaging. And if that's not possible, then reuse the packaging. And lastly, to recycle. Unfortunately, it's not highlighted there, but the 4 words is remove, reduce, reuse, and recycle. That's very much what the supermarkets look like when it comes to packaging. Between the retailers and some of the bigger brand names in the fruit business, there is a constant drive to find environmentally more sustainable fruit packing solutions. Primary packaging items would be the correct terminology, especially for products like grapes and berries. Up to a distribution point, a DC, the reusable plastic is a very sustainable option. But final pack that gets sold to the end customer is mostly not reused and end up in a garbage bag. I think there's the biggest challenge. For this reason, most customers are looking at 100% compostable, recyclable packaging for the final pack. And I think I've got a few examples here. In the citrus industry, we are seeing a swing to eco-gearsack nets, as well as cardboard branded units, which is in one of the next slides. And on blueberries, for example, we are seeing new cardboard berry punnets. And there's, for example, a Tango branded cardboard packaging. And then I come back to one of my first points. That is a 100% plastic-free, 100% recyclable option. Why don't the whole world change to it? We should, if we want to be environmentally sustainable, but does the profitability actually justify that? So it's always a balance between being environmental sustainable and profitability. Maybe some people and sometimes a push is needed, but that's the reality. This is the next slide. This is Driscoll. I don't hope in my spare time, a berry grower as well. I'm sure this is quite confidential, but they're starting to roll out these punnets. And the reality is these new punnets is a 94% reduction on plastic compared to the previous punnets. It looks nice, but it comes at a price. It's significantly more expensive. So their strategy is to enroll these new punnets into the higher-end retailers in Europe, where the retail and the customer can actually afford to pay for the extra sustainability. That's a Tango branded box. You don't even have to go overseas to find this one. You can go to your local Checkers. That's the Clement Gold in Woolworths, and the Tango in Checkers is the two ones competing and running for each other. There's my time. I don't have a lot left, so I'll move on. There's nice stories about the Tango. And then the next slide is new plastic fruit labels. 2 years ago, Belgium and France said, listen, we don't want plastic fruit labels anymore. We want them to have no plastic in it. And everybody was jumping, and we did pack these fruit labels, but without doing a trial and without trialing the fruit labels. And you can see the end result on your right there. It looked horrible. The labels didn't work. They didn't stick on the fruit. So that's just an example of where things go wrong. Generally speaking, retailers don't expect us as grower exporters to find more environmental sustainable solutions for end packaging, as we have but very little, if any, influence on the fruit final pack of the supply chain. We as a citrus grower exporter needs to focus our efforts on the part of the supply chain where we can contribute to being more environmental sustainable. This, I guess, brings me to the presentation and the reason why I think Anna has asked me to speak here today. M-Plastic introduced a cost-effective, waste-friendly, environmental, sustainable, reusable bulk bin that we started using the past season. Many of our customers in the south of Europe especially, that have their own pack houses, have the need for bulk packaging. It's simply, if we send it in a 15 kilogram box, the cost to get that into the processing line is huge. Labor is very scarce. There's not a lot of unemployment, and sometimes they can simply get people to do that labor work in the pack house. So what they do with these bins, they would tip it on the processing plant. They would put it in the jeer sacks that I showed on the earlier thing. They could repack it into smaller wooden or more sustainable packaging. In the case of juice customers, they can actually put it through their factory to make juice. So over the years, to accommodate these customers, we were packing those programs into J60 cardboard bins. That's what you see on the picture. These 600 kilogram bins were a good solution, but due to cutting costs in manufacturing and to our infrastructure and roads in the Eastern Cape, it's terrible. I mean, the trucks is all over the place. It's not been maintained. We increasingly see damage to the bins and damage to the fruit. Even yesterday when I flew up here, I got open an email on my phone, and there's another container where we see a lot of damage. I don't think of any of the corrugated people of MPAC is here. I don't know. I think that's some of their bins. So those are the bins, and that's the reason why we need another solution. If we look at, just 1 second. I had a few more pictures here in mind. When MPLAC first presented to us a different option at the start of this year, I was very excited about the prospect. With the unique renting and resale system of these plastic bins on the picture into Europe, they could offer us a competitive rental rate, which made the economics work for us. It is therefore so much easier to do the right thing and support a more environmental sustainable solution. The weight we can pack in 3 plastic bins are slightly less than the weight that we can get into 2 bigger cardboard bins. But the cheaper rental cost of the plastic bins versus the cost of the cardboard and the cost of putting that cardboard together in the pack house balance actually out. Although the solution ticked all the right boxes, it was not an easy journey to introduce and to fully optimize these reusable bins. With the help of M-Plastic, we got samples to all our customers that would potentially use it in Europe. It was not an easy job because we had to ensure that these reusable bins was compatible with the machinery and in the customer's factories and in the processing systems. Legislation played a role throughout. We had to get our shipping company to put on the bill of loading that it's reusable plastic, because if you don't, then they impose huge fines to us or to our customers. Unfortunately, where things went slightly wrong is our industry governance approved the use of these bins for lemon export, but unfortunately, they only agreed to a trial of 10 containers with Valencias. That's got to do with the phytosanitary regulation and Europe wanting certain temperatures and certain airflow, and they were not willing for us to do it full scale until they actually do a trial, which we have done. Unfortunately, the Valencia season is only about 10 weeks, and it takes 5 weeks to ship the fruit to Spain, and it takes some time to actually do the trials. So we've basically run out of time to do it in one season. I'm very confident that for next season, everything would be fine and everything would be approved. I'm sure we will get 100% approval for next season. So in summary, in conclusion, and this is also done by one of the clever ladies in my office, Grown for You customers are becoming acutely aware of the responsibility they have to source fresh produce from sustainable sources. Sustainability is a team sport and require all team players to contribute towards the goal of sustainability. From sustainable farming through the rest of the supply chain, every little bit helps, including the packaging that is used. These new bins, the innovation, an innovative way of reducing packing waste is to ship in reusable plastic bins that does not damage, does not crush, does not fall over, and is reusable. Food waste is reduced by landing fruit intact, and I can go back to that other slide with the bins. So I would like to say thank you for M-Plastic for this reusable bin plastic solution. We look forward to the next innovation that will make the world a better place at no extra cost. Thank you.